All right, everybody, welcome back. Welcome back to the MKO show. Thanks for coming back and bringing your friends. That's what you call wishful thinking right there. Here's where we have an expanded conversation, primarily around enhancing your metabolism, but broader than that, to enhancing everything about your life. And I get the best job in the world because I get to interview really cool people, and cool is a technical term. So, Dr. Tim, thank you so much for joining us on the show today.
My pleasure, man. Good to see you.
How about this? Let's just start off a little bit with give people an idea of who you are, what you're up to, just so they can understand where your perspective is going to come from.
Yeah, totally. Long story short, I had some childhood illnesses, asthma, allergies, some skin issues, that sort of thing. My parents didn't really know much about health. So I struggled with that for a while. And so I became a personal trainer in college. I was helping people get healthy through diet and exercise. And I've just always had I don't know, a hesitation towards medications. I had a bad reaction to a tetanus shot when I was a child. I had side effects from prednisone, all these different things. So it got me searching, I think. And I just thought about this the other day. I didn't even realize where my journey started. Honestly, I hadn't thought about it. But I've always had this gut feeling that, there's a root cause, right? That term is thrown around, but there's a reason why people have low energy or skin issues or whatever it is. So, personal training, helping a lot of people. I just absolutely loved it, getting people physically fit. And that's a good example of being patient, right? When we all start working out, we don't work out twice and then, it's kind of funny. Men go home and look in the mirror, see how their biceps are doing right away.
Right
It
away.
doesn't really work, right? It doesn't work that way.
No.
And health is no different. Anything in regards to our health is no different.
Mhm.
So I've always had this kind of negative gut feeling with medications, and I got recommended from a dentist when I was really young as well to get. Basically, I went in to see if I needed braces. My teeth aren't real bad, but I like the idea of the aesthetic, of braces, and so I went in and I think I was in college at the time, and they were trying to tell me that they had to do this like $12,000 surgery that was 25 years ago, to like realign my jaw and then do all this stuff to my mouth. I walked away from there just kind of like flabbergasted, like what just happened? I was just asking for like an Invisalign or something.
Right.
It's not like my teeth are going different directions. And so just all my experiences in life led me to think that there's just something better that's a kind of regenerative, supportive root cause process to health. And so since then, after helping people with personal training, I was going to be an eye doctor, actually, Earl. I don't know if I told you that.
No, I did
Um,
not know.
yeah, I was an optician. I was helping people with their glasses, and I was actually making lenses with liquids and the molds and the different prescriptions. And so that was my career path. I was basically going to take over my cousin's practices. He was very successful, and he was like a superhero to me. He's actually the one that got me into working out. He had a gym behind his optometry practice. So I was becoming a gym freak at the same time learning about eyes, following in his footsteps. He was more like a big brother. And I graduated with a pre-med degree, life sciences, and I was getting ready to apply to optometry schools. And I had just worked with this guy for 5 years, learning all about eyeballs. It was kind of boring. He could tell I was kind of burnt out, I think, with eyes. And so he had me talk to his brother-in-law, which was a functional medicine practitioner. And literally, Earl, a 1 hour discussion with this guy, I completely changed my career path. It just made sense to me, this explanation this gentleman gave. And I was already helping people get healthy. And
Yeah.
so I looked at it as almost that was the path to take my current skills to more of a doctorate level, to more of a bigger scope of practice to help people in a bigger, better way. So since then, man, I could tell you story after story. As you know, my wife was told that we would never have children because of her PCOS, endometriosis. We've reversed all that. We have four healthy children that haven't used any medications yet. So this is what I just live and breathe all day long in our practice with patients, with my family. Kind of an obsession at this point. But when you see the stories and testimonials that we get from helping people upgrade the most important asset they'll ever have, their health, and get their function back, whether they've been laying down for 2 years because of their low back issue or they're in the bathroom every 2 hours because of their
Mhm.
Crohn's disease. It's pretty incredible to help guide people without every other option they've ever been given is drugs, surgery, or a referral. So, I don't like those answers. So I wanted to take it into my own hands and create a practice that could take care of myself. And that's why everything we do is designed around my health, my family, my friends, and 10,000 patients later.
That is awesome, and I did not know that. And I love the idea that you instantly knew the path when you saw it. I love that. A poet once told me once when I asked him, like what is the appeal of poetry, kind of what makes a poem good. And he says, people know the truth when they hear it, regardless of how the words you use. And I think that
Yeah.
always rang true to me. So I think it's something to that story when you said you just in an hour you knew completely different direction for your life. That says a lot about you. Here's what I'd like to do. You can talk about so many things, and I hope I can get you to come back and do all of that.
Sure.
But I saw you speak at a big national health conference here in town, and you were talking about hormones, specifically the suppression of testosterone. But one of the things that rang out to me in that discussion you were having is just the unknown. Let's just call it the unknown battle that people have with having healthy hormones. And there are a lot of reasons why that is, right? But a lot of people just don't have the perspective. They don't realize some of the things in their environment can actually have an impact on their hormones. So let's talk about that invisible battle. That I think that would be a good way to start, and it might enlighten some people that has never thought about it.
Yeah, for sure. And so, really, in a nutshell, we get focused on a symptom or a category, right? Hormones or gut issues, or even a symptom, a headache. None of those things really can help you fix the problem. It's too simplistic, right? So every second, I mean, Mother Nature, God, innate intelligence, whatever your beliefs are, there's something that controls our incredible body. And the nervous system is the simple answer, but what controls the nervous system? But your hormones are just a reflection of your nervous system, right?
Mm.
If I'm in this fight or flight state, we all know we get adrenaline and my hormones change and I get cortisol levels. So really, it starts before that in the environment that then affects my nervous system, that then affects my hormones, right? And this is with everything. I don't care what symptom somebody's dealing with that's listening to this, it's always the environment, which is really three categories. You can separate everything around you in three categories, either chemical, mental, or physical, right? Chemical is not enough of something, too much of something, too much alcohol, not enough water, too many synthetic vitamins, not enough, phytonutrients from food. That you could get into that all day long. But there's chemical stress, then there's mental stress. Mental stress we all know about, right? Financial stress, emotional stress, worrying about things. That affects your nervous system as well. I mean, you can change your hormones through just having thoughts, but you can also change hormones by eating, processed bread or whatever it is. So then the third one is physical. So our physical environment is how we sleep, my posture. They've done studies on posture, for example. If somebody has a bad posture, they're kind of in that forward type upper back curve posture, forward head posture. Their lung capacity goes down like 20 to 50%. So just this physical regard, past accidents, again, sleeping position, if I'm sitting in a chair or desk all day long, all of these things affect the nervous system. So
Mm.
then the nervous system says, based on this environment of chemical, mental, and physical, what do I need to do in my physiology to change and adapt to this environment? So if I'm always in a stressful environment, your body will adapt to that. Usually, especially in this world, day and age with America, there's so many hormone disruptors on top of all those other stresses that those are the feel-good molecules. So we deal with a lot of hormones because people feel like crap if their hormones are out of balance. So
So,
I don't know
so
which direction you want to.
give a quick little simplified explanation of what is a hormone disruptor.
Hormone
Like just yeah.
disruptor. Yeah. So hormone disruptor is tap water, for example. Tap water has municipal water supplies are really designed to get the bacteria, the funguses, the viruses, the microbes, the bad microbes out of it. So it's clean drinking water, right?
Mhm.
So, but what they don't do, and you can look at this in ewg.org, by the way. Ewg.org has a municipal water testing source where you can put in your zip code and actually find out what is in your tap water in your area. They have to
Oh,
test
that's
that
a
stuff.
scary thought.
It's scary. And so there's pharmaceuticals, there's birth control, the estrogens, everything that goes down a toilet usually is in tap water to some degree. So there's a lot of chemicals. It's not very clean.
Right.
They're getting rid of fluoride now, as you probably have heard in a lot of places, which has been a neurotoxin for forever. It's just we've been told it's a healthy thing for our teeth. But hormone disruptors are just everywhere. They're in foods. They disrupt the natural balance of estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, DHEA, cortisol, and everything else. And again, that's the environmental stress now affecting and changing my hormones in usually a negative way.
So what would be some symptoms, just generally speaking, of people that suffer from a hormone disruption of some sort, regardless of where it originated? Like, what would be some symptoms of that?
Well, here's a funny example. There could be no symptoms, right? It's
Oh,
kind of
that's
like,
interesting. Yeah,
you're just at this low level of function, and
yeah.
we think that's normal. It's because I'm 50 or whatever the excuse is. But it's like a heart attack as well. Heart disease takes 10 to 20 years to slowly, silently occur until I have that symptom. So a lot of this is really just measurable. We want to measure things before they become symptomatic. But at that point, we have death on this end of the spectrum, right? We all know that's
Mhm.
going to happen at some point. Before that, usually we have disease of some sort, whether it's Alzheimer's, diabetes. Before that is usually symptoms. And before that is a process where we like to spend time called dis-ease. It's like the word disease hyphenated.
Mhm.
Dis-ease is the silent stuff that happens for 10, 20, 30 years before my symptoms, before my cancer diagnosis, before my heart attack, before my diabetes diagnosis. And that's really what I have mastered focusing on. I want to live a long health span. I don't care what my lifespan is, which sounds weird to people, but I don't want to not know my name for the last 15 years of my life. I don't want to be in a diaper the last 5 years of my life. I want a good health span, which is your quality of life,
I
not
like that.
necessarily long lifespan. And so you have to measure that stuff because it's usually silent. But it could be fatigue, Earl. It could be not being able to get pregnant. It could be just tired in the afternoon, then the rest of the night. It could be PCOS, endometriosis type symptoms. It could be I'm not putting on muscle or bone, even though I'm working out really hard. It could be sleep issues. So symptoms really, I don't like to focus on symptoms. I want to help people feel better, but this
Yeah.
symptom will never tell me the path to get them feeling better.
Oh, that's interesting. So for people out there that are listening to this, and you can't look at the news these days or the internet or social media especially, and not have people constantly yelling about, the lack, hormones being suppressed and microplastics and all of these different things. I mean, are there any general guidelines you can say, people should be aware of? Or I'm trying to make this conversation as practical but as
Yeah.
purposeful as possible. Yeah. You know, I mean, all the way up to including going to a doctor and getting blood tests and things like that. But are there just some guidelines? What are some guidelines that you live by? Just generally speaking, just to minimize the assault of hormone disruptors.
Well, and back to your original question, I've tested so many people at this point. I can almost guarantee anybody listening to this has a dysfunctional hormone in some area, whether it's too
Mhm.
much T production, which is dihydrotestosterone. And that's the whole point of testing is our environments are so toxic, not to be a doomsdayer, but the EPA has allowed 80,000 chemicals that they say can be safely added to our personal care products, our food products, and they've only tested 4 to 5,000 of those extensively, but there's 80,000 that are out there. So it's an easy guess that I probably need to work on this, just like
Mhm.
it's an easy guess that everybody should be active and work out or eat healthy. But hormones, you really want to find out. The whole point of any sort of testing is we all have a blueprint. It's always different. You can say a lot of people, a lot of men, yes, if they don't do anything and they have the normal stresses, they probably have lower testosterone than normal.
Right.
Most women, and even in women, Earl, you know this now, women, they should be focusing on their testosterone. Now, not getting on like a patch or TRT, but what is your testosterone level before you even consider what your estrogen is? It's the driver molecule. Testosterone in men and women, even though we have different ratios, is what makes me feel good or not. If it's low, you're going to be tired, you're going to be grumpy, you're not going to sleep very good. So that's really where we start. But our mainstream system has led us to believe that estrogen for women, testosterone for men. And that's just not true. So I like to get on every patient that comes through the door. I always give them my best ideas. I want a hormone protocol, hormone testing routine with them to figure out what's out of balance. I know something is, I just don't know what based on your symptoms. So testing is key. And this is what I bring up, whenever I talk, I do a couple to 200 to 300 markers
Mm.
far as like labs, urinalysis, blood work, stool testing, saliva, several different methods every quarter on myself. And this is why I have incredible labs because
Mm,
I'm constantly identifying what's not optimal in my body. You know, we all have Epstein-Barr virus typically in our body. Is that starting to go up over time, which will lead to symptoms? If I start to see something like that go up, even though it's not crazy yet, I want to start dealing with it. So dealing with these things when they're in the dis-ease state before the symptoms is really key, and you have to test for that. And that unique blueprint is so important to get on all of us. And my pet peeve, you know this, I've said this a few times. You know, we go to our yearly physical, and
hmm
people think they're getting, you know, really comprehensive labs. That's not enough. That's like less than 1% of what's happening in your physiology. And if you look at all those markers in my yearly physical, which is cholesterol, A1C, sure, those will start to show a disease process 10 years later after I've had a problem silently. But there's so much more to the body. There's whole immune, you know, testing that we can do, neurological, toxins. And the three categories we like to focus on is imbalances. This would be hormonal, neurological, deficiencies, which is not enough of something. So you can test micronutrients in the body. Am I lacking, you know, zinc and all these other things, but also toxicity. And that's the environment we talked about, right? The PFAS chemicals, the tap water, the chemicals in my food or fast food. So really those three categories, honestly, is critical to upgrade somebody's health because you see it all the time. People keep searching and searching and they
Yeah.
do this program and then they try this supplement and they try this detox program. If you don't work on all three of these really together, and I clean up my diet, I start, you know, getting rid of some of the toxins while I'm fixing my deficiencies that have occurred for 10 years, and I detoxify some of those chemicals, and I fix maybe the hormone imbalance, right? It's challenging to get healthy because the body's very complex.
Yeah.
There's 30 billion trillion chemical reactions that occur per second. So there's nothing simple about that. So getting 20 of or 30 measurements out of 3,000 that I can actually measure in your body, it's really not going to help people.
No, I think you touched on a lot of really powerful things there, and I'm actually taking notes. I hope people are taking notes as well. You know, one thing I want to kind of hopefully I can invite you back and we can talk about a lot of other things, but this has really been good. And I talk a lot about my effort to balance my hormone using a natural food source product. And I don't want to turn this into a commercial, but what I do think might be useful is just to talk about how it is possible to support hormone balance without the use of synthetic drugs.
Yeah.
And you can talk about that however you know, help people understand. Because you were the person that really helped me get my mind around. Oh, and one other thing, and this is the whole testosterone thing. If you could just differentiate total testosterone versus free testosterone, that most people are so confused about that. But if you could just talk about how it is possible to use some natural, you know, like safe, basically food sources. There are some things you can do short of, you know, synthetic drugs.
Yeah, and this is a conditioning process, right? We all think that if I have low testosterone, I need a medication, or if I have pain, I need an ibuprofen, right? This is just how we're trained. This is the kind of dogma we all just go along with because it's the mainstream idea. And so testosterone, again, in men and women, this is so important. Total testosterone, and you've seen this with us out at some of these events we've done. I've tested thousands of doctors, their testosterone levels. Most are low if they're
Yeah.
not doing anything, and I can tell who's on TRT, right? Because their numbers are insanely high. And sometimes they have this number of testosterone that's like 1,000 or more, and you talk to them and they still don't feel great, right? They're getting acne, they're still tired, they're still not sleeping good. So having this high total number isn't the goal, but we're Americans, so we think more is better. What we really want to find out in men and women is what is your free testosterone?
Yeah.
That's a small percentage of this total, usually 2 to 3%. That's what determines if a female has good bone density or she's going to have that in the future. Muscle mass, brain fatigue, right? Our brains degenerate because of low testosterone in men and women. So it's not this, you know, masculine molecule. Men and women both need it for a regenerative process with our bones, brain, and our muscles, right? But we just again have different ratios. So that's the focus is what finding out what my free levels are because total is just this big number, but what do I have access to? That's what actually is going to make you feel good or not. Now, what affects all of these ratios, that's why doing a comprehensive hormone protocol with free, total, some of the other conversions like DHT or, just some of the other things that happen, aromatase, where your testosterone converts to estrogen, more of it, and more estrogen leads to lots of other health issues as well. You want to get the right measurement. So free is always going to be the best because those are the ones that are actually doing something, not this big total number. Now, what affects all of these interactions and all of these conversions, why men lose their hair, and I didn't lose my hair, by the way, I just shaved my head. I got tired of getting my hair cut every 2 weeks, but I didn't lose my hair. But most people get receding hairlines because of testosterone converting to DHT,
Mm,
right? So foods do that already. That's the thing that everybody can agree with. We know there's certain foods that raise estrogen, lower estrogen, that, like horny goat weed is an herb, for example, that does certain things in the body, right? We all know that there's aphrodisiac foods out there. So if there's foods that are hurting my hormones, why can't there be foods that help my hormones, right? So
right,
food is always doing this, but it's a little more complex than just saying, I'm improving my testosterone because it's free and total plus the conversions.
right,
But our foods are already doing this. So if we can find those powerful natural nutritional formulas that are concentrated from food but are in more of a therapeutic dose to make some of these changes a little more powerfully because I need an antidote to this aggressive environment now. That's really what I'm searching for. I want to take those tests, the facts,
yeah.
but I don't want to have to prescribe something that has side effects that doesn't address the cause to the person's problem. And of course, if you're low in testosterone and you get a prescription for that, you're probably going to feel good next week. It does work very well, just like opioids work very well for pain. They're not good
Yeah,
for you, but they work well in symptomatic regards. But what happens is your brain, by the time I already measured you, Earl, if you were low, you've had years of that happening. And it's
right.
led up to the point where finally, 2 years later, I've been tired all the time. I want to get tested. They say, I know your problem. You have low testosterone, right? Well, I don't want to just give your body that thing, right? Your body should be producing it.
Right.
Now, if I give you that prescription, your brain now says, hey, organs, we have enough of this molecule. The organs that used to produce even a little bit, even though I've been reducing over time, those organs shut down completely. This is why men's testicles shrink over time. Women's clitoris can shrink because of that. It affects our physiology, literally our features. And so, how do I find something that doesn't have the side effects, that doesn't shut off my production even more, and get me into a steroidogenic state, which helps me produce more again because I'm not producing enough to begin with. And we know food does that. And a lot of people are skeptical of that, but there's a lot of science, a lot of research out there. And I'm an evidence guy. I'm the
Right.
most skeptical person you'll ever meet. Unless I see it work a dozen or more times consistently, I'm going to not believe in it yet, right? But as you see things work over time and you have that evidence of tests showing how something works, that's what's really going to get me on board because now I can help that person without them having the side effects of a medication and making that system even weaker over time because their body forgets how to produce that molecule altogether eventually.
No, that is awesome. And you touched on something that's a good way to book in this, but I do have a question for you, and I'm just curious actually. Do you have a I mean, and I know everybody's individual. I'm just curious. Do you have I hate to use the word diet style, but I mean, are you a fan of, paleo, keto, carnivore, mix, flex? I mean, where are you at, like personally?
Yeah.
What's got your interest these days?
That's a great
Personally,
question, and
yeah,
I'm going to get stones thrown at me for
of
for this.
course.
More and more people, vegetarians, it's like a cult, carnivores are a cult. What we can all agree on, and I hear a lot of experts saying this, and I've said this for 20 years, a whole food diet always needs to be necessary. I don't care if it's whole food with animals, clean
Yeah,
animals. 'Cause if you get the commercial ones, you're getting the steroids and the antibiotics and the corn and the GMOs that they feed those animals. So you want clean animal products and obviously humane as well if you can. But why are there so many testimonials with somebody going carnivore overnight and their
right.
autoimmune reversing or they lose 30 pounds, right? But you'll get those stories with vegetarians or vegans or paleo or keto. So I don't have a diet. It's just eat more food that comes from nature. It's pretty simple. I've seen carnivore negatively affect some people's health, and I've seen vegetarianism negatively affect somebody's health. But really, what we can all agree on as experts is cutting out the cooked, processed, not all cooked, but some is good, but the ultra processed foods that have all the other synthetic chemicals and sugar added. Basically, that's why those people have testimonials on every side. So whole foods, the least processed, eat a banana. Don't throw the banana in the blender, just eat the darn thing, right? Take a bite out of an apple, eat a cucumber raw. Eat the rare meats, right? The steak, if it's a clean steak. But whole foods are key. Nature is way smarter than we are. We really want to kind of embrace that and stop getting the packaged processed box foods that tell me how much sodium, how much sugar, how many carbohydrates, right? When people are counting calories, typically what happens is they're not counting chemicals now. They're counting how much fat, protein, and sugar is in a product, which that is not important, to be honest. If you're eating the right foods, you can't really overeat. So it's less about calories and more about the nutrients. And, it's like at what cost? If I eat a box of Cheez-Its, it depletes a lot of different enzymes and minerals and vitamins for my body. It tastes good, might satiate me for a while, but we want something that's going to be a regenerative tool. There's two different avenues, degeneration and regeneration. We
Mhm.
always want to push this direction as much as possible, which is whole foods, right? Which is good supplements, which is exercise, which is not getting a cortisone injection in my shoulder, right? We try to prevent that with people with lasers and other therapies because that process may give you symptomatic relief while accelerating a degenerative process right where we put that. So cortisone shots, they literally dissolve nerves and cartilage. And so most doctors won't even do two in the same spot because it literally trashes that joint. It's like getting a cash advance on my credit card. It's going to feel good temporarily. You're creating a much bigger problem
Bill
to address.
comes due.
Yeah.
The
So the
bill
question is
comes due.
always what costs to the body? Am I regenerating or am I degenerating based on that?
Well, this has been really good. I know we're right at the back end of the time you promised to share with us today. But I have some takeaways. I'm looking at a root cause centric way of looking at health. I'm looking at the kind of the three pillar model of chemical, mental, and physical impact. Those are all contributors to our health. And I love the idea of health span versus just lifespan. And then I really like the idea of people need to adopt the idea of counting chemicals just like they count calories. So all of those are really good takeaways for me personally. If people want to, I don't know where people are and where people are going to find this, but if they wanted to find you, give them some guidance as to where you can be found.
Yeah, Dr. Tim Harrigan, DrTimHarrigan. I'm on all the social medias and Dr. Tim Harrigan at yahoo.com. You can find me if you look for me. But yeah, if anybody has any questions, I'd love to try to help out. We work virtually with people. I had to open up our scope because, this is my obsession. I want to help people and, walk away from this earth saying I helped, this many people and be proud of it. So.
Well, I really appreciate you sharing some time with us. Hopefully, you'll let me talk you into coming back or possibly being just a regular on this show. There's so many things that me and you have had so many just interesting tangent conversations. Each of those, I think, people would have a good takeaway from. But thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your experience with us. And I hope to have you back soon.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, man. Have a good day.
All right.